Good morning, YouTube. I would like to welcome you back to Young Martin's Reels. I'm Rick Stivers, and today I went to a flea market, and I went with Ken, the guy who keeps bringing me reels. So I decided to try out one of these flea markets with him, and so I went, and one of the things I picked up was this pen number 9. Now, did I need a pen number 9? No, I did not, but it was such a good deal that I just couldn't pass it up. Don't ask me what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to clean it up. And if any of you out there are looking for a pen number 9, let me know. And we can probably hook you up at a really great price. But anyway, the other reel I picked up is something I hadn't ever seen before. And that is this RYOBI Adventurer 101 reel. Now, to give you an idea of the size of this reel, here's the pen 9. And yeah, that's a big reel. And that's going to be the project for today, is this pen adventurer. And we're going to tear it all down, try to clean it up. I've never worked on one of these before, so this is new, and we'll see how it goes. We're going to start off by removing this handle, and actually it's already loose to begin with, so this should come off pretty easy. Well, I say that. Let's see if there's something down inside that screw head. Okay. There we go. There's the screw, the lockdown, and the nut. All right, that comes off like so. And now we should be able to remove the drag knob. All right. And let's see, it looks like a spring. And it is, it's a big spring. Come out. Okay. It's for our drag tension. All right, that's got everything there removed. So let's go ahead and see about removing the rest of this, getting everything taken off. I think we're going to have to take this handle off, but I'm not positive of that. We might be able to leave that on. I think what we may be able to do is take these 2 screws out and slide this bracket assembly off out the end. Okay, those 2 screws are the same length. I'm going to see if this, yeah, this will slide off. I'm going to drop those screws into there. And we're going to set up those over to the side. And just kind of keep track of what you got. All right. Next, we're going to come down here to the bottom. And unlike many of these conventional reels like this reel seat attaches on the outside instead of on the inside. So we are probably going to have to remove it completely from both sides in order to take this off. I'll flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Now, I'm not 100% positive to the model of this reel, but I believe that it is a RYOBI Adventurer 101 based on pictures that I have been able to find on the internet, and because the badge is missing off of it. And let's see if we can pop this off now. There we go. And we will take, since all 4 of those screws are the same, we're going to set those together with the reel seat over to the side. Okay, now we have 1 screw left here and 1 screw left here, and I believe that this side plate will come off at that point. Well, so much for what I believed. That does not want to budge. All right, there may be some screws internal holding this thing together, so I don't see where they would be, as we've removed all those screws. All right, let's proceed on. We will remove this screw. That should be the last screw holding the trim ring in. That's a smaller screw. Okay, here comes the trim ring. Now when it comes off, there's a plastic piece in the front here. Okay, that piece is held in there. Now is that, I'm trying to make sure that that's not a broken piece, and it's not. There's a piece that fits in like so. All right. Okay. Let's remove that. That goes over here with the trim ring and this piece. And so far, it still does not want to come apart. So, oh, there you go. All right. So the trim ring is what holds this together. All right. And these parts, these are wedged in. So the screws don't actually separate that. Okay, that's nice. I like that. Once you know what it is, what it's doing. There we go. Out comes the spool. All right. Okay, set that over to the side. Let's take a look in here. And this is our clicker assembly, and this is a lever. I want you to see this side over here turns to lock it into, that's bait clicker mode. Turn it the other way to take it out of bait clicker mode. It moves the clicker over. All right, so we're gonna spray this down with a little WD-40 and let it sit there for a little bit while we proceed over to other things. I'm gonna still take this apart. Normally side plates I'll leave alone, but I'm going to take this one off just because it looks like there's old dirt and stuff up underneath it. So we're going to take it apart. Okay. Now, side plate, we're going to put those screws on the other side. This one out. And apparently this is going to be a frame that does not come apart. The frame itself looks like it's all going to stay together as one unit. The trim plates come off, the side plates come off, but the frame itself stays together. And of course the short ones go in these right here. All right, let's take this side plate off. There we go. Yeah, see, there's a lot of dirt up in there that we can get out now that we wouldn't have got to otherwise. All right, I'm thinking that we're going to push that bearing out. Let's go ahead and take this off of this side over here, unscrew it. Okay, there's a spring. Okay, welcome back. For you guys, it was just a second ago. For me, it was 18 hours ago that the phone got, the camera got interrupted. And we were in the process of taking this apart. And I had pulled the spring off. Now, there's a bearing down inside here. And right now, the bearing is operating quite smoothly. But what I want to do is I want to get that bearing out because I'd like to clean it. Because the old grease and stuff has been in there for a long time. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to take this down to my workshop real quick, and I'm going to try, I've got a compressed air nozzle with a little rubber tip on it. I'm going to stick that rubber tip against this hole right here, and I'm going to see if I can pop that bearing out of there. And then I'll go about cleaning inside the hole and seeing if I can clean the bearing. And I believe it will, but I'll be back in just a second. All right, I'm back, and the bearing did not pop out like I was anticipating. What it did do, though, is pop the seal out of the bearing along with the seal keeper right there. And that allowed me to spray WD-40 into the bearing and then spray the bearing down. Now let's say that this bearing had been bad and the compressed air hadn't worked like it didn't on this. What you can do, and this is an old automotive trick, what you could do is take bread and pack it down inside the hole and get a bolt that's just the size of this hole right here and knock it, kind of pack it down in there and use that bolt to drive it down in to get the air out. And once you get enough bread in there, then the bolt would force the bread up into the bearing and pop that bearing out. But there's nothing wrong with this bearing, so I didn't want to take a chance on damaging it by packing bread down in there. So I cleaned it out good, and we're going to put this seal back in it. And put the little metal ring back in. And I wish I had my other glasses with me right here, because this is a tiny, tiny little ring. Okay, I'm back with my magnifying glasses, and let's see if we can get this back in now. I don't know what you guys can and can't see. You may not be able to see me put this back in. Okay, I'm sorry that you guys didn't get to see this, but what I did do was get that little snap ring worked back into the groove there to hold that seal in. Now, if, for instance, I had not been able to do that, you can just leave that seal out. It won't hurt the effect of the bearing any. It's a kind of a dust seal to help keep trash and stuff out. Okay, I'll put some lube on the bearing, and that bearing is cleaned up and ready to go again. It'll serve for many, many, many years again like that. All right. The next thing we're going to take apart. Now, I had curiosity about this plastic clip right here, and I didn't understand what its purpose was. I thought, what in the world is that clip doing there? And I believe that that is a hook holder. It doesn't seem to serve any other purpose, so I'm pretty sure that's all that is, just a hook holder. And now we're going to go in and see if we can take this bridge apart. And I think we're going to start off. If you look here, there is a C-clip, or an E-clip, depending on what you want to call it, right here. And that E-clip is holding in this pin that holds this eccentric lever. Okay, and I think we're going to leave that in place. That's a pretty heavy-duty spring on that eccentric right there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when we lift this out of here. I'm thinking we're going to leave that in. Yeah, we're not going to take it off from this side. We're going to leave that on because it appears that that is held in place by this with the eccentric spring on there. So we're going to leave that in place, and we're going to remove the 4 screws right here. Okay, that's got those out now. I believe this eccentric now is going to hold it in place to keep it from coming off. Not positive of that, but I believe so. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this E-clip off. There we go, there's the E-clip removed. There we go. Let's get that off. Push forward a little bit there. Okay. And I believe that we might be still held by this final screw right here. Okay. Let's go ahead and get the appropriate size screwdriver. That's a screwdriver I picked up at the same flea market yesterday. All right, we're going to remove that screw. And now, I guess we'll see if this will all start to come out. And it is starting to come out. I don't think that screw needed to come out. Not yet, anyway. Okay, I think this just needs a little leverage along the edges to get it to start coming out. There we go. It's sitting on post. Okay. And now I'm thinking I do want to take that screw out and leave the E-clip in. I think I'm going to put the E-clip back in right here. And we're going to take that lever off on the other side because it looks like that whole assembly wants to come out as a whole. Okay, E-clip is back on. Let's remove the screw, holding on the lever on the opposite side. Remember, this is all trial and error here. I've never had this reel apart, never seen one before. I'm trying to figure things out as we go. Okay, that's got the lever off. Don't lose, it looks like there's a plastic washer inside there. Don't lose that. Okay, push down, and now the bridge assembly comes off. I'll set that side plate to the side, and there we have the complete bridge assembly. All right, it's got, we're gonna zoom in a little bit so you guys can see better what's going on here. This is the configuration. All right. Now, our concentric rotating is right here. This is where the lever goes. Okay, hang on just a second. I just had a plastic washer fall off of this somewhere. Oh, it is the one from in there. Yeah, that's the one from in there. All right. This goes down in here like so. Okay, now if you look, as this concentric operates, it rotates sideways. And see your pinion gear? Your pinion gear drops down, and that will make it contact this cutout on the spool. And that's what will engage and disengage the spool for your free spool. That's disengaged and that's engaged. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and take this eccentric arm back off, or lever. Okay. And let's get back in here again. All right, now this eccentric spring's got a fair amount of force on it, which is going to be fighting against us over here. So the eccentric, the arm goes in right here. So we'd be fighting this the whole time unless we remove that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that eccentric spring, and we've seen how it goes so that we know what we're doing. We're going to grab hold of it here, and we're going to take it off like so. And then we'll see if we can unhook it. There we go. The eccentric spring is now out, like so. And now all that force and tension is off of this assembly. Not all of it, most of it. This is your anti-reverse on this side over here. Okay? And it's operating over here. When you look, when this rotates, it, well, it was, oh, this has popped up some. Okay. Let's move this back out and slide that back down. And now you can see the anti-reverse, how it works. Okay, And if you look under here, you'll see there's a big cam lever, and that's clicking on that. It was until I lifted it up again to get it to go back down where it belongs. There we go. And there's your anti-reverse. There's the lever clicking. All right, so we're gonna take this apart. I'm gonna pull off this main gear, and I could probably put this screw back in, but I'm not going to because I want to clean this shaft and oil it. So we've got the gear, or the drag assembly over here. We've got the assembly for that here. Now there's probably, almost every one of these, anything like this I've ever taken apart, has a washer right here that you don't want to lose because it's the shim washer. So we'll keep an eye on that, make sure it stays there. And we're gonna clean this up good. And this is a nice, well-made part. This is all stainless steel. So RYOBI did a fine job on this reel. And it is a saltwater reel, big, heavy duty. Okay, we're gonna take that. I'm gonna leave that drag washer on there. So we're gonna go ahead and take this drag stack apart. We've got our bell washer. If you look, it's got a slight bend to it, very slight. But there's a concave side and a convex side. So the convex side goes up. Okay, and we've got a drag washer here that is all dried and nasty. And we'll clean that up. And here is our eared washer. Now we've got another drag washer. And then we have another keyed washer. Now this one is going to be flat. This is not going to be a belled washer like the other one. Okay. And then we're going to have another drag washer. Okay. That's got that to that point. Okay. Now, do we want to take this the rest of the way apart? Might as well. This will come. This is your anti-reverse lever on here. And you could probably just leave it right here and clean this shaft by spraying a little WD-40 down in there. As a matter of fact, you can just lift it up and leave the spring attached. That's probably the best way to do that. I'm going to recommend that you do that. And then you have your yoke assembly. Boy, all right, this is your yoke assembly. Now, as this comes across, as it rotates this direction, it's going to, see these ramps right here? These two little ramps? Those ramps are going to slide up under here and lift that out. Okay? Like so. And that is what engages and disengages that. Now, again, this is another part that you could take apart, but why? You've got two E-clips right here. If you take those two E-clips off, they're holding these springs, and you take those off, then you remove the springs, and then you can lift this whole thing out. So if it was really encrusted with heavy dirt up under here, you could do that. And I don't see the reason behind doing that, so we're not going to do it. What I'm going to do is leave it all in place and scrub it right here. And that part I'm going to do right in front of you so that you can see what happens. After that, I'm going to go clean the rest of these parts, and we're going to start assembling. Okay? So let's get to that. All right, if you look real carefully, this bar is a little bit damaged from corrosion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up just a little bit. I don't want to get too carried away because I don't want it to fit loosely inside the shaft. but I am going to try to clean it up just a little bit more than what it is. It's a little bit rough at the moment, and I want to clean the roughness off of it. Okay, that's nice and smooth now, so that will work well. Now, if you look, there's a tiny little hole right here, and that hole is for oil to go down and seep into this. And what we want to do is make sure that it's clear, and it is. Because what you can do is this screw that goes in the top up here, you can take that screw out and put a few drops of oil in there periodically. But what we're going to do is we're going to grease this shaft. All right, I'm going to stop at this point and go clean all these parts, get them all scrubbed up and clean. I'm not going to show all that because, like these side plates right here, these are going to go into my bathroom sink, believe it or not, with some hot soapy water, and get scrubbed up. Get all this dirt and disgusting filth out of here. Scrub this guy up. All these are going to go to the bathroom sink. And I'm going to use some palm olive dishwashing detergent. And do I have a preference for palm olive? Not necessarily. It just happened to be what was on sale. So we do have a bearing on this side that I've still got to treat as well. And I don't know what its condition is yet. Let's find out. Let's get this one. Okay, that one turns freely also, so we will scrub that out. And again, this is, if I really had to have this bearing out, I could get it out by packing bread in behind it and putting a bolt that size of the hole down inside there. It has to fit fairly snug, and then tap down into it, and it could drive that bearing out. But I don't need the bearing out to clean it. We're just going to spray it down good and scrub it up, wipe it off. And then I will gently blow it out with my air compressor, but I'm going to keep the pressure low. I don't want to blow the seal out like I did on the other one. And have to hopefully find it and put it back. I did manage to do that on the other one, but I don't want to do that twice. Okay. And that bearing's a little bit noisy, so I may still gently blow it out with the air compressor, see if there's any sand or grit down inside it. Okay, but I won't seal up against it. I will blow down inside it from a distance. All right, let's go get all these scrubbed up, and I'll be right back. Okay, as you're cleaning these parts up, don't forget to clean the insides of things. People will take this thing apart and they won't clean inside it. And if you look, yeah, there's quite a bit of dirt up inside there. So make sure to clean inside the parts as well as the outsides of parts. All right. This is the shim washer that I was talking about. It was stuck right here to the bottom when I went to clean this. So don't lose it. It definitely belongs on there. You don't want to lose that part. And all right, now let's talk about a little bit of the cleaning I did. I took these major parts and I took them to the sink and I put them into some hot soapy water and scrubbed them up. Now when I got done, I wiped them off as best I could, but I knew that there was still going to be water down in all these holes. So I took it down and hit it with the compressed air to blow all the water out of these holes so that they don't want to leave water in there because that will just cause further corrosion in the future. The same thing here. I blew out the bearing good. We're going to go ahead and oil it. I will oil it probably once more before I put it on the side plate, and that will soak in there. But I blew that bearing out real good to make sure that it didn't have any dirt or anything else in it. And it definitely sounds much better. And one thing I did discover is that one of the posts on this is not an attached post. It's not swedged in place. So it, actually it's over here. Goes on like so. And I made sure to blow it out good too. All the other parts I took and cleaned. Now this metal plate, this trim ring on this side plate over here, the one with where the label goes, did not come off. And I thought if I blew compressed air into this hole right here that this side plate would pop off. It did not, so I left it in place. I don't want to bend it trying to take it off to clean under it. It looks real nice the way it is, so we're going to leave it in place. Let's see what else is there. The drag washers. I cleaned up the drag washers good. And what I did is I put them on a wooden board and sprayed WD-40 on them. And I took a little piece of Scotch-Brite and rubbed gently on each side and then wiped them off with a clean rag to get all the old saltwater corrosion off of it. I scrubbed this part up. One of the things we didn't talk about on this particular part was this pinion gear, and it is actually in very good condition. It does still have little traces of old grease down in there, and you can take and pick those out like this. And you see there's not much there, but then we'll lubricate and grease this up, and I think that we're just about ready to start putting this beast back together again. Okay, so the first thing that's going to go on is this shim washer, and it had a little bit of grease on it, so we're going to put a little bit of grease on it. And one of the things I told you to watch out for earlier appears to have happened while I wasn't looking, and that is this spring right here for the anti-reverse has popped off. Okay, so in my cleaning I managed to pop it loose, so we're going to hook it back on right there. There we go. Now your anti-reverse spring is back in place. Okay, when we go to set this gear back on, first is going to go this guy. Okay, and it's going to sit down on there, and we want to make sure that it's greased on the bottom. And then we want to make sure that the shaft that it's on is greased. Now, under normal applications, what's going to happen is when you drop your drop of oil down inside this hole after taking the screw out, that's going to oil this. Well, the oil and the grease, as long as you're using real greases, they will mix together quite well and work sufficiently. Okay, so we'll put that on there like so. Okay, now we're going to put on this, and what I need now is my Cow's Universal Drag Grease. And I'm not going to put a lot on, just a little bit. And we'll put that on that drag washer. And we want it as thin as possible, so because we don't want a lot on there. We just want enough to keep the drag washer pliable. And then what I'm going to do is come back and gently wipe it to get the majority of the grease off, like so. Okay, just enough to keep that pliable. All right, let me zoom in here so we can see a little bit better. All right, now we're going to set the gear in place. And I'll tell you what, before we do that, let's go ahead and lubricate the teeth on the gear. Keep my viewers happy. Now we'll set the main gear back in, like so. And let's go ahead for a moment and let's oil this pivot point here. We're going to oil where this goes up and down on the spring. I'm going to grease these two ramps right here with just a little bit of grease, because they're sliding up underneath there. And we're going to put a little dab of grease there. There's a lot of pressure that goes on right there. And then we're going to come back and add oil to this pivot point under here where this part rotates. And now, this, one more point, right here. Okay, there we go. That should have all that just about ready to go back. Now we're going to take our washers, our drag washers, and we're going to dip them down into the cowls and put just a little bit on there, like so. And we don't want to get excessive, because what will happen is it will rub off, but I don't want to waste any of it either. Cows are a little bit expensive. You can use regular fishing reel grease to do this if you want. Cows is just specifically formulated for drag washers, so that's why I use it. Okay, I wiped that one off a little bit, slide it into place. I'm going to wipe these other two off just a little bit and set them down here. I didn't wipe them off much, just enough to get the runoff. When this squeezes tight, what will happen is that grease would squeeze out and get into, it's kind of ooze out around here, and we don't want that. Okay, so the next thing, we've got the first drag washer in. Now we're going to put in this keyed washer. Drop that in. Then we're going to put in another drag washer. Okay, then we're going to put in this eared washer right here. This ear's got these little ears on it, kind of like a little man, little head with little ears. And those ears are going to go into these cutouts on here. Let's slide that down and make sure they fit into the cutouts. Then we're going to take the last drag washer, slide it on, and then finally it's going to go the last keyed washer, which is the belled, and the convex side points up, so it's domed upward. Okay, now we're going to rotate this around a little bit, and we're going to reinstall this spring. Okay, we're going to hook this spring up under there and get it into that hole like so, and we should be able to snap it right into place. Keep a finger on top of it just to keep, in case you miss the hole and it pops off, it doesn't go flying across the room. There we go. Okay, that got that on. All right, now this entire assembly should function well. There's your anti-reverse, clicking as it does. Okay, your pinion gear's rotating. Now, let's slip on our handle, which I didn't clean yet. Okay, we're going to slip this on just for a moment. And before we do, let's add just a touch of grease to the shaft to make it easier to come back off next time. Okay, oh, and I dropped the washer out. Watch that washer, it'll pop right out. Okay, and slip that on, and now you can see it go as it rotates. There's your up on the pinion gear. There's your down motion on the pinion gear. And again, what that's doing is that's moving this gear in and out. See how it moves out and moves back in. There's out and back in. And that's what activates and deactivates your spool. Okay, I'm going to lift this back off. All right. We're ready to reinstall this back in the case. And we're going to sit it down over the top of it and kind of pull it up into place like that, so that nothing can fall off, and it keeps the main gear in place while we get everything set. All right, that looks really nice. Okay, we're ready to reinstall these 4 screws. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to go back and drop a couple of drops of oil into this hole. And we're going to put this screw back in. And at this point, it should be working well. And it does. Anti-reverse is working. Let's go ahead, put our lever arm back on. Put the screw back in it. activate on and off. You can see the pinion in and out. There we go. Okay. I think next we're ready to start assembling this half. And this will be the back side of this. So it's going to go this way. And the way you can tell, I'm going to back out just a little bit more. Okay, the way you can tell is the way the holes are lined up. This piece will not fit on this side. It has to go on this side. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set this in place over here. There's a post right here that has to fit into the post here, like that. Once that drops in, you're good. Okay, and the small screw goes in that short hole, like so. And the others, now this is where this post has got to go back in. Okay, and it's going to sit right here. And we'll get it lined up in the hole, get it started. Okay, and what did I do wrong? You guys know, I know you do. These two can't go in yet because they're going to go with the holder, like so. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know, these holders right here, if you're a freshwater fisherman, you might not have ever encountered anything like this, but when you're talking about big fish, these holders are there for a harness, and the harness clamps onto here and keeps you and the pole in the boat. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this bearing back in on this side. Now you see all my oil has soaked back into the bearing, so we're going to go ahead and give it one more drink of oil. Give it a chance to soak in really well, and we're going to screw this in, but we're only going to go just a little bit. We're not going to go too far. Oh, wait a minute, what are we missing? We're missing a part that hadn't been cleaned. And that's this spring. Let me clean this spring real quick. All right, I'm back with a clean spring. The bearing is in, the spring is in, and we're going to add a little lubrication right here where this spring rides, just to make it easier for it to slide up and down as it needs to. Set the spring back in place. Set this back on and give it just a couple turns. We don't want to screw it all the way in because that's the adjustment for the spool. All right, now it's time to install the spool. But before we do, let's make sure that we've put a little bit of grease on this eccentric over here that operates the clicker. Okay, we're going to put a little bit right here on the eccentric where it rotates on it, just to help reduce wear. Not that it's going to be activated all that much, but there you go, like that. Okay, then we're going to come back and add a drop of oil here and a drop of oil under here, so that that clicker will continue hopefully to operate for many years. And it is a loud clicker, let me tell you. The sound it makes is when it's hitting that eccentric as it clicks. Okay. All right, the spool's been cleaned, and this side over here, let me get this line out of the way. This side over here is the clicker cog, and it's going to fit down inside here, and that's what that clicker is going to ride on that. So what we want to do to get the clicker out of the way while we do that is we'll rotate it over here, and that moves the clicker over so that when we put this in, it's not going to hit it. Okay, and now we want to make sure that this line is not trapped as we set the spool down in. Now the best way to do that is going to be to, hang on, there's some, this spool really needs to be emptied, but all right, rather than just tell you to rubber band or put a rubber band around this, I decided to actually show you a rubber band on it to hold that line in out of the way. I went ahead and wiped off the inside of the spool. Really, this line needs to come off. We have no idea of the age of this line, and it needs to come off. It's also a little bit small for this reel. It looks like it's about 20-pound test line, which is very small for this size reel. Okay, we got that in. Now we're going to put a little bit of grease on the shaft here. Now, is that going to make this rotate? No, it is not. But this spool in free spool mode will rotate inside the pinion. But the bearing portion is going to ride out here, and that's what's going to ride on the bearing out here that you just saw. That little bitty skinny bearing, that's going to be what's riding on there. The rest of this here is going to be spinning inside this pinion when it's in free spool. All right, right now we are not in free spool, so let's put it in free spool, get that back out of the way. And we're going to set this back in place. And it's going to fit better if we go ahead and install the side plate on it, or at least set it in place, because then we can line up the holes properly. Okay, let's see here. It's going to go this way. Oh, and we've got to get that around that. There we go. Got to get around that eccentric handle. And, oh, let's not forget the plastic hook hanger. There. Okay, put that in place. I'm going to have to put it on just as I put the plate on. All right. Let's slip this back under here. This handle is going to go up here. There's going to be a plate that goes here, so we'll move it around over here to the on-off and line this up. And there you've got a gap right there, so it's not perfectly round, so there's only one way it can go on, so you're not going to mess it up. See that? But hook that up under here when you put it on. All right. Now, in order to get this plastic piece to hang on, I'm going to add just a little dab of grease in there to act as a glue to hold that in place. Okay, and set it back in place like so, and hopefully that's going to stay in place now while I flip this over. All right, and it did. Okay, and now we're ready to set this back in place as an assembly. And we're missing a part. One more part. This piece here rides inside there. It's going to sit right inside here. It drops down in there like that. And that provides the hole gap piece to fill this in right here. Okay, and that also probably will help all this hold together better as we flip it over. Okay, and it did not. Let's try it again. So this looks like it's going to be one of those multitask hands-on operations. I think what we're going to do is we're going to stand the reel up like this when we go to put this in, so that things aren't being flipped over and dropping out. Let's see. Put that back in there. Put this back into place like so. And you got to make sure that it goes all the way down or it's not going to fit. Okay. Now we're going to turn this over. Slide it in like so. And there we go. It'll all snap into place like that. Okay. Once that's done, you can start putting these screws back in. There's the short screw there. Don't put those two in up there because that's going to be for the other harness. Well, how many of you knows what I did? I put it on the wrong end. Oh. Here we go. Get back over. Oh, And remember, this is going to have to slide under this lever. Okay, like so. Okay, now, here's something you're going to have to be careful of. Stainless steel screws are easily galled, so you have to make sure that they actually get started properly in the hole, or you're going to tear up the threads. That one felt like it was binding a little bit. I had to play with it a little bit to get it lined up. And you definitely do not want to tear up the threads. All right. One last turn on this screw over here, since it wouldn't tighten down all the way before because the bar was spinning. All right, we're up to that point. We're ready to put the base plate back on now. And it fits either way. It's the same either way. Let's slip that on. Be agreed with. All right, that's got that to that point. Remember, we took this big spring off to begin with. We're gonna drop it back in. You know what? Let's go ahead and, just to help prevent it from corroding, let's go ahead and add a little grease to it. Okay, slide that down on there, like so. Now we're gonna put our drag knob back on. And you got to get it lined up properly. And again, I think this is stainless steel going against stainless steel, so you better make sure that you've got it lined up properly. Okay. I'm thinking we got a pretty nice running reel here. Okay, we're gonna put on now the handle. Which again, remember when we got this, the handle was actually loose. It was wobbling around. So we're gonna put this on, tighten the nut down, and do I have anything that big? I don't think so. I'm not gonna go get a appropriately sized socket. I'm too lazy, folks. We'll use this crescent wrench, and we're going to tighten this down, hopefully to where we can get this onto one of the holes. That one didn't work, and that one certainly didn't work. Okay, so we're a little bit too tight. Let's loosen it just a hair and see. The handle, yeah, the handle's still tight, and yet the screw lines up. So let's go ahead and use that as our tie down. A little dab of grease on the end of my screwdriver to hold the screw tight. If I can even pick it up. Okay. Let's go ahead, tighten that down. Okay, there you go. Let's try the drag. Let's see here. Okay, can we tighten it up more? Oh, without a doubt. That'll handle a big fish. Okay, loosen up the drag, good. It slips evenly. Good. Free spool works. Okay. And one final thing to try is the clicker. This thing has one of the loudest clickers I've ever heard. All right, there you have the RYOBI, what I believe is a 101, Adventurer 101. And this was fun, I'm here to tell you. When I saw it there at the flea market for $10, you know, I thought, well, first off, I thought the guy was going to want a vast fortune for it. And it was bolted onto a piece of steel pipe. And I said, well, I like that reel. It's a big monster. I've never worked on anything like that, except for the Pen 49, which is, this is actually a bigger reel overall than that was. And I thought, well, you know, I wonder what he wants for it. Price was $10. I took it. I walked out the door with it. Didn't know too much about it. I've got this little window looking thing over here, and it doesn't seem to have any purpose whatsoever. One time I thought maybe there was a counter, maybe there was a version of this that had a counter. There was a little aluminum ring that goes in that button for no apparent purpose whatsoever. And then of course the label went here. But that is a nice reel. I really like it. Maybe it's just because it's mine. But now, for comparison's sake, I told Chris I would do this. For comparison's sake, here is a Penn Senator 3.0 sitting beside it. Okay? That gives you an idea of the size and scope of this reel. All right, now, here's my Pen 49 sitting next to it. Okay, so it's not quite as large a diameter as the Pen 49, but it's much wider and holds tremendously more line. So I like it. It's a neat reel. And I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button and bump up my algorithm a little bit. And if you didn't like it, okay, tell me what you didn't like, and we'll see if we can fix that. And for now, that's Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, signing out.